Hey everyone, welcome to week 2 of Bare Necessities. If you're joining us for the second time, thank you so much for coming back. And if it's your first time finding us, thank you so much for watching the video. We're glad that you found us. And we hope that you go ahead and click subscribe below the video so that you can get all of our content straight to your inbox. We're so excited this week to bring you our planning edition. This will be the top 5 planning tips to get the most out of your trip to Disney World.
Yeah, it was really hard to narrow it down to just 5 tips. I love to plan Disney vacations. I'm currently planning like multiple at one time, and that's a lot, but I love it. Like, I love the challenge of seeing what new things we're going to do, making those decisions about where we should eat, and if we're going to see these characters or we're going to do those attractions, and what our day's going to look like. So we thought we'd give you just like the top 5 that really help us kind of where we start to where we finish planning. And of course, if you guys have any questions, we'd love to hear it in the comments, or you can connect with us on social media. So our first tip is going to be using a crowd calendar. So a crowd calendar is where a company, a lot of websites do them, will take historical data and marry that with a Disney promotional calendar and special events calendar, and they'll predict on a scale of 1 to 10 how busy the overall Disney World Resort is going to be and how busy each park will be on a daily basis.
Yeah, so what this allows you to do, first of all, in the early stages of planning, is pick a week that suits your schedule best that's not going to be super crowded. So for some people, if you work in education or if you have children who are in school, obviously you're limited to your breaks because you don't want to pull your kids out of class or miss work. Or summer vacation hits and like you can look at the entire summer vacation, and the crowd calendar will allow you to see during your summer vacation what weeks will be lower crowds than others, because it does happen. It's not like they're busy all summer long. There will be certain weeks where there's nothing going on, no promotions, and it's a good week for you to go because the crowds are going to be a little bit lower. Now, maybe the difference in an 8 and a 10, whereas on non-school break weeks when everybody else is in school, you may be looking at the difference in a 4 to a 6 or 7. So you just kind of have to look at those things. The crowd calendar allows you to do that. The other great thing a crowd calendar allows you to do for a week-long trip or even a 2-day trip is determine what parks will be the best ones for you to go into on which day.
Yeah, most crowd calendars will actually give you a recommendation. They'll say like, hey, this is a park you probably need to stay away from because they've got something big going on, and unless you're there for that, it's just going to slow you down, and maybe it's just going to be too crowded for you and your family. And then they'll say like, hey, this is the park that you might want to go to because it's going to be the lowest crowd for a while there, and you can really maybe get more done and get more bang for your buck in that park. So a couple of the services that are available that do crowd tracking is touringplans.com. That's our personal favorite. Undercover Tourist also does a crowd tracker or crowd calendar, and so does Kenny the Pirate. All of those are really good and pretty accurate. It's almost scary how accurate they are with that data. Some of those are paid services, some of them aren't, but I would definitely say start there just so you have an idea of what it's going to be like. Even if you already know, hey, this is the week we're going to go because that's the only way it'll fit in, it's still good to figure out, hey, like, what is it going to be like, so you go and you're not completely surprised by how busy it may or may not be.
Yeah, and like Keisha said, Touring Plans is the one of those 3 that we choose to use. Of the 3, that's the only one that's a paid subscription, but in our opinion, it's totally worth it. It's around $15 for a whole year, and even for one vacation, in our opinion, Touring Plans can make the difference in your vacation and help save you sometimes a couple hours a day of waiting in line.
Yeah, so we'll get into what an actual touring plan looks like a little bit later. Alright, so number 2 on the list for planning your Disney vacation is going to be to know your priorities. So I know many people say, well, we're just going to go down there and do it. We want to do Disney. And that is awesome, and I love that mentality. Like, I'm just going to go do it. But there is more than you could ever see in one trip. So you've got to figure out what your priorities are and what the priorities of all the other people in your party are. Because the last thing you want to do is think you've got a wonderful planned vacation, everyone's going to enjoy it, and little did you know that your teenager or grandma that's accompanying wanted to do something a little bit different that was maybe on their bucket list or their must-do list, and it got skipped in the time that you were there. So definitely keep those lines of communication open so there's no disappointment.
Yeah, and there are ways to work those things in. Again, if you utilize a service like touring plans or talk to people who are experienced at Disney, they can help you out when it comes to like working those things in to your trip to make sure everyone has a great time. Different people are going to have different priorities. Some people are just all about the attractions and they want to experience Soarin' and Flight of Passage and Space Mountain and all those great rides. But other people, that's not the most important thing. Some people prioritize the restaurants. That's always my priority. I love the dining experiences at Disney World. They're fantastic. Every restaurant that you go to at Disney World has its own special touch. And some people want to experience different restaurants. Other people may prioritize character meet and greets.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like knowing the age range of your group and their interests. Because planning a trip for a family that maybe has small children, maybe they want to, their party is meeting all of the princesses, or all of the Fab Five, and that may not be the priority for someone maybe like me and you, like just an adult couple going down on an anniversary weekend. So making sure that you understand that there is way more at Disney than just going in the parks and doing and participating in the attractions. There's way more experiences, and some of those that maybe you don't even know about yet could be something that really interests you, and that's really going to put your vacation over the top. Yeah,
absolutely. And there are other things to experience at Disney World other than the parks.
Yeah.
All of the Disney resorts, if you stay on property, there's 34 resorts, and all of them offer great pools, and the rooms are great, and they have experiences for families during the day and at night, and so some of those things might be important to you. It also may be important to you to rest. This is vacation that we're talking about for most people. Most people going to Disney World are doing it for vacation, and so it may be a priority for you to get some rest, and if that's the case, you just have to know that that's a priority going into it. It's not going to be super easy to pack a bunch of stuff in and get rest, but it's definitely possible if you plan your days out ahead of time. And another really important thing when taking your priorities into consideration is budget, because your budget is going to determine what things get priority, whether you stay on property, whether you stay off property. All of those things will play into what your priorities are and how your money lines up to make your trip work best for you. The third thing to keep in mind when planning your Disney vacation is cost. And some of the factors that will come into play when you're planning your vacation to Disney World that revolve around cost. And one of the big ones is whether to stay on-site or off-site. You have both options. And what that means is whether you're going to choose to stay in one of the 34 Disney resorts or you're going to stay in another hotel in the Orlando area, which there are a lot of. There's other things to do in Orlando, and it's a huge tourist town. So there are a ton of resorts and hotels and options of where to stay, including things like Airbnb and timeshares in Orlando. And so when you make that decision, one thing that comes into play is cost, and there's a lot of pros and cons. And so Keisha's going to explain some of those things.
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones is vicinity. So if you're staying on site, like on Disney property, you're going to be closer to everything in most cases. So a lot of people don't like to leave the Disney bubble. We are two of those people. We love for that magic to continue out through our entire vacation and not have to leave. But if being super close to the park is not a must-have for you when you're looking at where to stay, then you might have some really good options outside of Disney. Another thing that comes along with this that you want to take into consideration is transportation. So Disney provides, when you stay on site, transportation to and from all the parks, Disney Springs, their water parks, free of charge. You just go outside of your hotel, there's a bus station with several different lanes of buses, and you get on and they take you back and forth, and it is super easy. They also provide what we call the Magical Express. So if you're flying down to Florida, you would let them know all your flight information. They take care of your luggage, which is awesome. And then they will, free of charge, pick you up in a really cush bus and take you to Disney to your resort, and then they'll come pick you up when it's time for you to go to your flight, and they'll take you back free of charge. So when you talk about looking for a taxi or an Uber or renting a car, it might make sense for you to stay on property just for some of those transportation perks. Parking is another one. So when you stay on site, you get free parking at the parks and at the hotel. And that can add up really quickly. So if you're taking, let's say, a 7-day vacation, parking is now $22. It just came out this week.
Yeah.
$22 per car to park at a park, like for one park one day. So when you think about that, that could really add up. And you know, you could potentially make that back up really easily just by choosing to stay at a Disney World resort. So there's a couple other things too, though, that you got to keep in mind.
Yeah, so discounts and packages offered by Disney, most of those you have to stay on property in order to obtain those discounts. And some of those will be a dining plan, some of those will be special room rates. There's all kinds of different discounts throughout the year that Disney makes available to guests. And staying on property, you get to take advantage of way more of those than you do off property. And so that's a huge one to take into account. Other little things like magic bands, which if you stay off property, you're going to pay anywhere from like $13 upwards to like $50 if you want the Dooney and Burke ones for a magic band. And if you don't have a magic band, it's okay. You still get a ticket and you still get all that stuff. But the magic band does add a little bit of magic to the experience in the RFID technology and how that comes into play around the parks and throughout your trip. So that's a pretty cool piece about staying on property, is getting that magic band for free.
Yeah, but I would also say if that is not a must-have for your group, then you may be better off staying off property somewhere, getting a cheaper hotel, and if you're okay paying for some parking, or maybe even your hotel has free transportation.
Yeah, some of the hotels do.
Yeah, back and forth to the park. It's just going to take a little bit of research and, like we said, compare the cost to figure out what's going to work for you and your family. Yeah,
and one of our favorite perks of staying on property is extra magic hours. So every day at one of the parks, Disney offers extra magic hours, which is 1 or 2 hours of extra open time for the park for guests who are staying on property. So that's always fun to take advantage of. And when we're planning our day, we like to look at those. Those usually come out well in advance of your trip, and so you can look at those and kind of plan along with some of the other factors, what parks you want to be in on what days, to take advantage of those extra magic hours if you're staying on property.
Yeah, that's a lot of information, and there is way more things that go into it than just those. Those are kind of the top ones. So if you have any questions or anything about, just leave it in the comments, and we'll be glad to get back with you on that. Our fourth tip for you guys is my personal favorite, and that is to use a touring plan.
Yeah, and we mean touring plan in the general sense of the term. A little bit earlier we referenced touringplans.com, which is a resource that we use and we swear by. But there are a lot of resources available to help you plan your individual days at Disney World, not just your full week, but individual days. And these plans are great and can sometimes help you save upwards of 4 or 5 hours in the park.
He is not exaggerating. Like, we've tested it and it's the real deal.
Yeah, these help you kind of predict where the lines are going to be, when they're going to be. A perfect example of this is at Epcot. Everybody kind of walks in and goes right to the ball because that's the main attraction, or so they think. And so that gets a really long line, but later in the day it's like a 10-minute walk-on attraction. So using a touring plan helps you see things like that, and it's super important when it comes to planning your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a ton of great websites, some that give you those touring plans for free. Some of them make you pay just a little bit to use them because they have deeper functionality. But any way you go, you are going to be better off using a touring plan. And I know it kind of sounds a little bit scary, like I don't want to plan it down to the minute. It's okay, you don't have to. That's something that we love to do just because it's kind of a challenge to see like how it works out according to our plan. But you can definitely do it as like carefree as you like, but you are going to benefit from having the information from the other people who stood in line in front of you. So there are lots of different ones. So like for example, there's touring plans for people with small children. So that prioritizes some of those more kid-friendly rides and character experiences. There's some for people who like to sleep in and come into the park a little bit later in the day. There's some for adults with no children. There's some for senior adults.
There's some for people who don't want to walk 16 miles in a day.
Yes,
they optimize walking paths and stuff.
Exactly. So there's lots of different options, and you don't have to plan it out to the minute. You can just take take what they have and go by a general order of how to do things. But the other really nice thing that these touring plans do, based on kind of what fits your scenario the best, is it's going to suggest FastPass Plus options for you and kind of the best times to reserve those FastPass selections if available. So if you want to kind of tell us a little bit about
that. So FastPass Plus, if you're not familiar with that term, is basically an opportunity to cut in line. So you get the opportunity to reserve 3 FastPasses per day, and what that allows you to do is it gives you a 1-hour window and allows you to come back at that window and wait in a much shorter line. So there may be a wait time posted of 90 minutes, but the FastPass line is only taking 10, 12, 15 minutes at that time. And those, obviously those times vary, but just using that as an example, it's basically the opportunity to cut in line. And you get 3 opportunities to do that a day. So it's really cool to take advantage of FastPass Plus, and knowing when to use those FastPass Pluses to optimize your day is really important, and that's a benefit that you can gain from using a touring plan.
Yeah, especially if you haven't been to the park in a while, or there's some new things been added, or maybe it's your first time in the park. You're definitely going to want to glean that information so that you're reserving FastPass Plus for things that do get those long waits instead of getting it for things that we'll say are a walk-on or rarely ever have a line. So you're maximizing your day and you're spending less time in line and more time enjoying your vacation.
Yeah, and we sometimes use our FastPass Plus to experience the same attractions twice in a day. Some of the things we really love, we'll go to the park at Rope Drop, or park opening for those that aren't familiar with that term, and like ride Flights of Passage in Animal Kingdom, right at Rope Drop when there's nobody else in line yet, and then like 3 hours later get to come back and use a FastPass to ride that ride again. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with the FastPass, and it all really kind of comes together when you use a touring plan to plan out your day and your route through the park.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really great things about FastPass Plus. There's also a rolling 4th FastPass. So we could do a whole vlog, and we probably will, on FastPass Plus and their different methodologies and strategies. So if you guys have any questions about that or know something you'd like to see us talk about regarding FastPass Plus, just let us know in the comments, and we would absolutely love to do that for you guys.
Absolutely. The 5th and final thing, or at least final for the purposes of this video, to keep in mind when planning your Disney vacation is to know your windows. There are a lot of time frames that are associated with your reservation, and it's important to know when those windows are coming up for your trip.
Yeah, so one of the big ones we just talked about is FastPass Plus.
Yeah.
So there's a window where that opens up and you can go in prior to your trip and reserve times for the rides that you feel are most important to do so. So there's 2 different windows here. So if you decided earlier on in the video that you're going to stay on site and be in the Disney bubble for the entirety of your trip, your FastPass Plus window opens 60 days prior to the day of check-in for the entire length of your stay. So you can see the advantage there. So let's say you have a 10-day trip, 60 days before the day you check in, you actually get 70 days when you're looking at that last day. So that's really important if, let's say, you prioritized attractions, and so you want to do all the most thrilling rides and the most popular and the newest things, so those things that get the longest lines the fastest. Those on-site guests are going to have better luck grabbing those fast passes. So let's say your family loves Frozen, you have a princess at home who really want to ride Frozen ever after, and you know they'll love it and that's important, but you don't want to wait in a 3-hour line. Being on site and making sure that you're on the computer at 7 a.m. when your window opens could be really advantageous for you. Yeah, so then the second window is for those people who are staying off-site. So that window opens at 30 days prior to your theme park admission date. So for you guys, it's a little bit different. You'll wake up in the morning 30 days prior at 7 a.m. and you can make your fast passes for the park you're going to be in that day. If you have multiple park ticket, you'll have to do it every morning 30 days prior to the day you're visiting that park. So it's a little bit different, and maybe that plays into you deciding whether you're going to stay on or off site. Yeah,
that's really important. That's one of the perks associated with staying on site on one of the Disney properties. A couple of the other important windows to keep in mind: 180 days. At 180 days, you can start making your dining reservations, which to me is the most important. I love all of the dining experiences at Disney, and we're excited for some of the ones that we're going to get to experience this year. But those reservations open up 180 days in advance, and some of those are really hard to get. Like
Be our guest.
Be our guest, yeah, absolutely. Be our guest is a really hard reservation to get, and so at 180 days, people are online booking that reservation. Some of the other restaurants that you get to eat at the resorts that are really nice, great experiences, book pretty early as well. So it's really important, if you know you're going at least 180 days in advance, to get online and book those dining reservations.
Yeah, 2 quick notes here. First one is it opens up at 180 days for people who are not going to be on property and people who are. So even if you are going to be in the Orlando area and there's maybe a restaurant at one of the resorts you want to go to, you don't have to have a theme park stay or a theme park ticket to enjoy that restaurant and book it 180 days ahead of time. The only advantage that there's going to be for staying on site for dining reservations is going to be that 10-day period. Those on-site guests get to make dining reservations 180 days ahead of time for the length of their stay, up to 10 days, whereas off-site guests don't. So that might be different, but at 180 days, you can still get just about everything, whether you're on or off the park. Out of the park.
Yeah, and Disney has recently partnered with Open Table, and some of the dining reservations you can actually get through Open Table, which is a really cool website. Another important window that will apply to a lot of folks, if you booked your trip through Disney, either online or over the phone, 45 days is the cutoff to pay the remaining balance of your trip. So unless you have some other magic trick worked out with Disney where you get to do something different, if you have a vacation package booked through Disney, 45 days out is when that final payment is due. And once that final payment is due, you got magic bands coming, and all kinds of other fun stuff starts then. So
yeah, and I think it's really good to know, because we get a lot of questions about the financial piece of it. There is not like a strenuous like payment plan. So you pay, if you're getting a package, it's usually $200 up front, which reserves all of your tickets and all of your rooms and the different things that that are involved in your package, and then you have up until that 45-day mark to pay it off. So they don't make you pay every month or every 2 weeks or whatever. Just as long as it's paid off by the 45-day mark, you're ready to go.
Absolutely. So these are 5 of the most important things to remember when planning your Disney trip. And in reality, we could do a full vlog on each one of these points and dozens of other planning tips. And we may do some of those down the road, so look forward to those. But yeah, we just wanted to bring you some of our top 5 when it comes to planning, just to get you ready. So Keisha, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is to manage your expectations and know that you could do every single one of these perfectly. You could be up at 7 a.m. and get all the perfect fast passes. You could be up and make the reservation for Be Our Guest, you know, or wherever it is that you want to go at the 180-day mark. You could use your touring plan and look at the crowd calendar and be ready to go. And something just goes wrong, or it doesn't go according to plan, or the weather doesn't cooperate, or someone in your party got sick, or you just got tired. That happens. Those parks can kick your behind after a couple days, and maybe you just need a day off. So just know, like, it is okay. It's your vacation. Whatever you want to do, no matter what the plan was when you came in, you're there, you're enjoying it, do what you want to do, and have fun. Yeah,
a prime example of that is the first trip that we took together as a married couple. Like we told you in the last video, I hadn't really spent a lot of time at Disney World, and we hadn't planned on meeting any characters, and so that wasn't something that we built into our touring plans.
Because you weren't super excited. So
I wasn't. Like, I didn't know. I hadn't caught the magic yet. Like, I didn't really fully understand it. And so we were at Animal Kingdom, and we went out to the conservation station on the train, and when we got there, Rafiki was there. And I was like, Keisha, I need to meet Rafiki.
I need to.
Right, so we spent like 20 minutes waiting in line to meet Rafiki. Obviously, like, it impacted our touring plan for the day, but what we decided right then and there was we wanted to meet some characters. So we got some cool interactions with Chip and Dale on that first trip, King Louie and Baloo. We got to meet Donald Duck. We had some really great experiences. And so just being flexible and knowing that everything may not go according to plan in a bad way or in a really good way, and you may get to have some extra experiences just based on that flexibility. Thank you guys so much for watching today. We're really excited to share all of these tips with you guys, and we hope that you continue to tune in. Make sure you like this video and comment down below, and as always, make sure you subscribe so the bare necessities of life will come to you.
But I'm so cold down here. Should wear thicker pants.